Hello, my name's Matthew Gardiner, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the outcome of this work that I've proposed. Now, what's interesting about this work is that it's an intersection between technology and nature. And so what's more appropriate than choosing a location like the Botanic Gardens, very beautiful, very well maintained, and like a real cultural asset for Geelong. And why not place an overlay, a digital overlay on that, which is a reflection on what's inside it. And so by means of illustration of what to expect in terms of outcomes, the work is, first of all, it's an augmented reality experience. I'm going to give you an idea of what that means. And I'm going to give you an idea of the works that I'm making, and by looking at how I'm making them, essentially. So what I've got here is a study that I've done it's a draft for one of the works that I'm looking at. This particular seed pod I found in one of Geelong's gardens, and I was just fascinated because on the ground under the tree I found all of these different ages of the seed pod, and I was especially fascinated by this, beautiful geometry on one level. On another level, I was fascinated by the decaying or the leftover geometry and how beautiful that is. I was also very fascinated by the seed pod release mechanism, which it's a current topic of looking at something that they call active materials. And active materials are inert, so basically this seed pod still continues to live even after it's died or after it's left the tree. So as it's drying out, it releases the seed pod, and this mechanism that's at play is very linked to nature and folding and nature and origami, which is my core area of concern. So flowers opening and closing, seed pods opening and closing. There's a lot of beautiful folding mechanisms that exist in nature, and it's a good way to uncover them and explore them. And my early works, like this oribotic flower, is kind of a reflection on those sorts of objects. So is a reflection on a very, abstract concept of this, whereas this is taking a step into the real. So now that's the study, and the study is, delved into looking at the internal structure by doing latex casting and looking at all the different ages. And then I've studied the geometry and produced something that is a little bit more closer to what the actual outcome will be. So this is a three-dimensional object that's available on this page. So if you look a little bit further below this video, you'll see that there is a link. If you've got a recent iOS device, you'll be able to do the same thing that I'm doing here. What you can see here is in the frame is the three-dimensional object interacting with the camera. So in this case, I can kind of move it around, and I can view from above it. I can even go inside it if I like. And the idea here is that it appears like it's in the real world. And this is one of the ideas that I want to work with, is I want to position these objects around the Botanic Garden. So a visitor would come into the gardens, they would get the app, or they would get a means of engaging with this work with their device. The app is a very logical means for doing this. And what it lets them do is seek out various locations in the garden which are marked by signage, so little signs on the ground, which, or in the garden, which represent an interaction between the species that's in the garden and the digital, the augmented artifacts that I've made. So one of the things that will feature in each of the works is some form of animation. So with this pod, With this pod, I'm very much interested in the opening and closing of the seed pod and animating that and making my own interpretation of that. With other species, it will depend on the actual species. So essentially, that's what the work is in a nutshell. Is it's an experience of walking through the Botanic Gardens with a device that allows you to view a new layer, a new artistic interpretation, artistic and scientific interpretation of species in the garden, and the way you experience them is through your device and through augmented reality. And I highly encourage you to download or have a look at the one just below. Hopefully someone in the office has an up-to-date, someone on the board has an up-to-date iPhone. I'm sure you do. And it gives you an idea of really how I think it's a very fascinating and engaging way to experience a work like this in a very COVID safe way. So I think that's the other layer that's really, really fascinating and interesting, is that I think the outcome will definitely add to the cultural experience for visitors in and around Geelong. It will definitely be an enhancement in some ways and essentially a very engaging, exciting addition to the experience that's already wonderful and already layered and meaningful in the gardens. And I hope that this work encourages audiences to see other parts of the garden in a new light, to sort of see and wonder, wow, I wonder what that species would look like if the artist worked on it, or I wonder if I could do something with my own interpretation. And really to take inspiration from the Botanic Gardens and from the species in it. And I really hope you fund this project. I'm really looking forward to it. It's very exciting. Thank you very much.